Is the frequency in use? Is the frequency in use? Nothing heard. It looks like it's time for the long wire.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. It's been a while. About a month, I think, give or take. A lot's happened. A lot's not happened. Oh, man. So, anyway, this is, what episode is this? Oh, man. Number 5. Number 5, DIY OpSec. This is going to be, it's going to be a good one. It'll be a bit grimmer than usual, I think, but it'll be good. It's stuff we all got to stay on top of these days, given the current environment, but especially with the goings on in the world. I know we don't like to get political around here, and we do our best to stay away from that, but sometimes it you definitely have to stay on top of this kind of stuff. So anyway, for those who are new here, my name is Alan, N0ZFG, and I'll let Chris do his introduction.
Hey, everyone. Thanks again for joining us. I'm Chris, KE0JHC.
All right. It's good to see you again, Chris. It's been a while. I think we were exchanging some text messages before the show. It looks like you're getting in there real good with a nano VNA. So
yes,
I'm a bit jealous. I want to get one of those now.
Yeah. So I had just picked this up. I picked it up. I had it delivered to me through Amazon. Who am I joking? Had it shipped to me this week. Came direct to my doorstep. Thanks, Amazon. It's a great little piece of kit here. I don't know if you can see it there.
Oh, yeah.
Flip it on here quick. Came with a little jumper. It's got SMA female ends on the actual equipment itself. Probably won't be able to see them. But, yeah, it comes with a male-to-male jumper, and I actually had a couple of these SMA to SO239 adapters from doing stuff with some commercial equipment, the Tates and Motorola stuff. So
nice.
Just started playing with it. Behind me here, got a adjustable whip antenna sitting on a pie pan with a mag mount. So literally just playing with it, watching the SWR move across the chart as I extend and retract the whip. Pretty cool. One cool thing I saw was from across the room, I dialed it in like 1.1 SWR. As soon as I walked away, the whole dip moved about 10 megahertz. So my body was definitely interfering with the antenna as I was playing with it. So
nice.
That's definitely a thing I'm going to take into consideration next time I'm out in the field setting up antennas.
Yep.
Don't adjust your antenna at the antenna.
Nope. Nope.
Walk back and forth. Put the miles in.
Yep.
Get it dialed in right. Make sure that you're at your below 2-to-1 SWR if you're running HF. Usually those rigs can handle it. Make sure you're dialed in at your radio, not at the antenna. So
yeah, that's a really good point. I know sometimes a guy gets in a hurry and starts making tweaks, and you're standing right next to it, and you're making another tweak, and you're getting it dialed in. You don't realize as soon as you walk away from it, you've just desensitized it. As soon as you walked away. So I know the installation manual for most any Motorola mobile, there's a whole section dedicated to antenna tuning and antenna placement. For some reason, they always use a Mercedes C-Class in their for their vehicle. I don't know of any department in the U.S. that uses the Mercedes C-Class, but whatever. But they show different mounting locations for the antennas, and there's a huge warning with the one associated. I'll have to get a screenshot of it one day and post it on the channel, but there's a huge warning with the one associated with the trunk mount, because especially with the high power radios that are 110, 120 watt capable, it's big bold letters that says do not do this with the UHF or the 700-800 meg or the 900 meg radios. because RF exposure, and you're inside of, you're not in a Faraday cage because there's big openings, but that RF starts to bounce around in there, especially at that higher power. So always the optimal location is the highest point in the center of your vehicle with the biggest ground plane.
Yes,
so,
typically right on top of your roof.
And I know a lot of hams don't like the NMO mounts, but honestly, that's my go-to mount. Just bite the bullet, punch the 1-inch hole or whatever it is in your vehicle.
Yeah.
If you do it right and you put it in a good spot, like what I have on our truck, it's like when you go to trade it in, you take the antenna off and put the blanking plug in it, and you can't see it from the ground. So
no one will ever notice it once you put the cover on it.
Exactly. You take the coax out, you put the cover on it. It's like it was never even there.
That, or you sell it to a farmer.
Yeah, because they're just going to put one in. You might as well just leave the antenna in it then.
Yeah.
So
yeah, ask them, hey, what frequency are you running?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, you're running UHF? Here you go. I'll put my spare one on there.
Yeah.
I'll just leave it.
Exactly.
So.
Oh, man. So, I guess we get to see a little bit what's on your bench. You got a sweet Nano VNA that I want now. I mean, I have that Rigol spectrum analyzer, which does a really, really nice job. Although I did run into a bit of an issue with it. Turns out I had modified this thing to constantly reset its onboard clock because it comes with all the features enabled as a trial period. So I had modified it. So every time you rebooted it, it would reset the clock in it. So you effectively never ran out of your trial period.
Right.
Well, if you leave it run, like if you're tuning a duplex or whatever, and you have it running for half hour or something like that, sometimes what would happen is it would reset. So all your cursors and your frequencies you've got plugged in, and you're doing your tuning, it all goes away, and it all goes back to 50 megahertz full span, and you got to start all over again. And I had finally had enough. Like, that's it. I'm undoing a modification. So what if I lose some of the features on it?
Well, you know what that's telling you? That you need to get better at tuning your duplexers.
And get faster with it? Yeah.
Yes.
I should probably do a video on tuning a duplexer. There seems to be a lot of misinformation out there about how to do it, and people seem to think it's a bit witchcraft. And some of it is, there's definitely an art to it, but it's not hard. I mean, it's either going to work or it's not, effectively.
Yeah.
So, you can definitely do a poor job of tuning it to then have poor performance, and you can desense your receiver and stuff like that, or you can damage your receiver if you're really bad at it. But I should do a video on duplexers anyway, because you see a lot of these cavity duplexers on eBay for like $50 or $40 or whatever. And they're just garbage. They're absolute garbage.
Yeah.
They won't hold a tune. They're extremely temperature sensitive. They're made out of some really low grade metal. So just a 20 or 30 degree temperature change will make it shift several megahertz. That's okay. I mean, megahertz. That's enough to destroy a repeater site. So
yeah, no good.
Right. And not to mention, like, if you're doing a for real repeater site, not to go elitist full Mother Motorola on everybody, but Motorola's R56 says, and that's their standard for repeater sites, says you can't have one of those notch duplexers in commercial or public safety service because they just don't have the accuracy, they don't have the rejection, they don't filter out harmonics. You really do need a band reject and a band pass. So the big cavities. So those are ones.
Awesome. Yeah, I've never actually played with duplexers before. I've seen them. I know I've seen some of the cans you guys got in your back shed there. But yeah, I've never actually hooked them up to a analyzer or anything like that. So
it's kind of fun. I do want to play with building my own duplexer, because I mean, there's that's where you really start getting into the RF kind of the black art. So because there's no electrical connection. I mean, there's no like wired connection between your your input and output of the duplexer. You know, your
Yeah.
input from the transmitter goes into a mag. Effectively, it's a mag loop inside the duplexer, and you've got another magnetic loop for your antenna out. So you're coupling those two inside that cavity, and you're tuning that cavity for resonance at whatever frequency you're trying to reject. So
Okay.
you can also do frequency rejection with using coax stubs, which is pretty cool. So
Interesting.
yeah, you put a little T fitting in your coax, like your feed line or whatever, and on the T section of it, your extra leg, you attach a chunk of coax. It's open on one end, and based on the length of that coax, it'll give you a nice little notch. So if you've got,
No way.
you can use it as like a pre-selector, and you can stack them up. Like if you want to increase your notch, the depth of your notch, you can keep stacking them up. So
Oh, that's cool.
that's a real cheap and dirty way. Like if you're doing like a field day or something like that, you can toss a couple of those in as a cheap pre-selector. You got to keep them off the ground so they don't get wet, but
Yeah.
they do work.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. But I guess on my bench, I've kind of stalled a little bit on Project Redline. I was working on the logging software for it, and Visual Studio Code. Thank you, Microsoft. Had to do
Yes.
an update, and everything's broken now. All my code's still there. It's just none of it runs.
None of it's working because all the
Yeah,
the syntax and
yeah, the syntax is broken now, and it's like, oh my god. So I'm just kind of taking it as a sign, you know, the Almighty saying, Alan, listen, it was okay, but it really wasn't that great. You should probably think about starting over.
right.
So I kinda-
it's funny how that stuff like that works, right?
Yeah. So I'm looking at it as a positive. I'll start over, make it a little bit better, a little more polished. But in the interim, I'm making a nice little touch interface for a driver module for my Tar Heel 2 screwdriver antenna. So
Nice.
a nice little 2.5-inch color touchscreen. Put it in the dash of my truck, and it'll give me my up and down tuning, and then I'm going to have some presets. So
That's
that
awesome.
should be fun.
And I guess the other thing that I got, I don't know, let me see if I can focus it for you. See my bench back there?
Yep.
See the 4 new pieces of equipment?
Those look familiar.
Yeah, I wonder where they came from.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got them, cleaned off a place on my bench for them.
Well, it's funny. It's like I get this stuff from work. It gets dropped or damaged or something at work, and they just file 13 and stuff, which is frustrating. So it's like, well, instead of throwing it away, you know, I'll let them throw it away, and then I'll take it and bring it home and fix it, which is usually
Yeah.
not much wrong with it. But
Right.
it's like it's not economically feasible for them to fix it because they'll send it somewhere to get fixed, and they're gonna be like, well, it's a board level repair. We don't do board level repair. You got to buy the whole board. Oh, by the way, Agilent doesn't support this device anymore, so you got to buy a new one. So, and then they
Yeah.
throw it away. So,
Right.
and then it got to the point where it's like I have 5 frequency counters. I'm like, I don't need 5 frequency counters. So, like I had 5 frequency counters, 4 bench meters. I had a handful of arbitrary waveform generators, and it's like, you know what? I need to purge some of this stuff. So it's
No,
perfect
I'm
timing.
looking forward to playing around with the stuff and playing with that scope, and
Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
yeah, I'm excited. There's quite a few projects that I can play around with and
Nice.
do. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Otherwise, as you can tell, I'm in a new location.
Yeah.
I used to have my computer right there where my workbench is. I got sick of looking at that TV up top
Yep.
and never looking at the camera, and I'm still not looking at the camera.
I
Yeah.
know what you mean.
But I feel like this is a little better setup, a little more comfortable for me. I used to sit on a high top stool at that bench there,
Oh.
so definitely not very comfortable.
No.
Finally can sit in my office chair here, just kind of relaxing now. So,
Nice. Yeah, well, it looks good. I like the accent lighting in the background.
Yeah,
So
thanks.
I added, like we were just
Playing
talking.
around with it. it's weird. I can't play with it during the day because it's still light outside. I still have daylight coming in through my window off to my left here.
Yeah, there's still a fair amount of light here too. So I do. It's weird. If I look at, so I put my camera on a little tripod, so the camera's like dead center of my display. So I have to look at the camera to see my computer display, which is like a way of forcing myself to look at the camera. But if I look at myself in the viewfinder on the camera, it looks really bright and really washed out. But if I look at myself in the stream, it looks really dark. And it's like, oh man, I could use another fill light, another key light on the other side. So, I don't know. Just keep playing with it.
The bad thing for me with that is I have my key light right in front of me here, and it reflects off my glasses. So
I got the same problem.
I'm sitting here trying to sit right so you guys can actually see my face, but at this point I just don't care.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've got to the point where it's like no one watches the show anyway, so it doesn't matter. Oh man. So I suppose we should probably get down to at least something useful.
Yeah.
So the first thing I wanted to go over is, like the title of the show suggests, is OpSec, or operational security. And while this isn't strictly operational security, it's kind of along those lines of cybersecurity and cyber awareness. And as hams, as electronics hobbyists, enthusiasts, this is stuff we need to be aware of, especially as digital modes become more popular. You're on the computer a lot more. Our more senior members will say are engaging more online and things like that. So it really pays to kind of pay attention to this kind of stuff, right? I have an article here, and this isn't strictly for hams, obviously, and this is probably geared toward more the really young ham or potential ham. This specifically is dealing with online gaming. And a lot of the younger hams also do a lot of online gaming. Even some of the older ones, I guess. I do it from time to time. I don't do it near as much as my oldest daughter does, but she really enjoys it. So, but along with that, there comes some responsibility, because you expose yourself online, whether you realize it or not. There's no such thing as free games. There's no such thing as free anything online. If the game or app is free, labeled as free, then you are the product. Whether they're harvesting your data, or they're pushing ads towards you, or monitoring what you're clicking on and stuff like that. And some of this can be really, really malicious. So I thought we would do. I'll read this article. I got two articles I want to read. The first one deals with kids and online gaming, and the title of it is 5 Video Games Where Predators Target Kids. So it starts off with, according to the FBI, as many as 500,000 predators are active online every day, targeting kids from ages 7 to 15. Their intentions include procuring sexual images from children, and sometimes making physical contact with their victims. Video gaming platforms offer predators an opportunity to an opportune place to lure children. Kids may have their guard down when playing games, while predators make overtures of friendship, sometimes pretending to be someone they are not. Any game where children can communicate with strangers presents risks. Predators can contact children in chat rooms, sometimes called lobbies, through written, verbal, or video means before or during a game. Tragic, heartbreaking circumstances have been reported widely from they cite an incident with an 8-year-old on Roblox, pressured for sexual images, to children being sexually abused after being convinced to run away with a predator met while gaming, to children being sextorted through gaming consoles. Admittedly, this is a bit extreme, but I think it drives the point home quite well. It says parents can make video games safer by limiting screen time, avoiding games with the potential for interactions with strangers, implementing parental controls to eliminate contact with others, monitoring their children's online activities, and talking often with children about the dangers of interacting with strangers on or offline. So they have a list of the top 5 games in which the FBI has flagged for the number of sexual offenders or sexual predators that have been found on these various platforms. And these games are Fortnite, Call of Duty, Minecraft, Roblox, and Among Us. Those are the top 5 the FBI has flagged, which is pretty shocking. And I guess it makes sense because those are the popular games, right? So it comes as a stark reminder that, although the games seem harmless, you can never underestimate other humans' predilection towards evilness. So trust no one, I guess, is the moral of that story.
Yeah, that's kind of scary. I got a 4-year-old myself, and obviously I have a tablet. My wife has a tablet.
It's hard.
We do a lot of work on it,
Yeah.
personally for personal stuff, work stuff, church stuff, and whatnot. And our daughter always wants to use our tablet. Well, we have a little tablet for her that she can only have access to one game or one thing, but
Yeah.
she doesn't want to play that anymore. She
Right.
wants mom and dad's.
Yeah.
Which I have to myself be cognizant of. Hey, when I do give her my tablet, I need to be there. I need to
Yep.
watch what she's doing. So, it's pretty easy for kids to get on YouTube. They know how to get on YouTube.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
They're smarter with the stuff than I am.
Yeah. I mean, even my
so-
youngest knows how to navigate YouTube and stuff like that, and with doing the kind of work that I do and being involved in a line of work where online security is a pretty big deal. I'm very, very online security aware, and it's just absolutely terrifying what goes on online and the avenues people will take to exploit other people.
Yeah.
And especially through video games, kids' video games, it seems innocent enough, and it's hard because all of their friends are playing these same games, So it's like,
yep, that's hard too. I can't remember, was it a couple months ago, maybe a year ago or so, where even on like YouTube Kids,
yeah,
where it's supposed to be just kids content, where the video looked like Peppa Pig or whatever cartoon it was.
Oh, I remember
But
that one.
It was, but it wasn't.
Right.
It wasn't the actual show. But if a parent walked by, they would have no clue. You
Yep.
give your kids headphones and put it on, you'd have no idea what that show is putting in your kid's head.
Right, exactly. And then you get
Just some weird sickos out there that.
And then you get like these free games, like you give your kid your tablet or something, and they start going through the app store for the free game. They start downloading games. There's nothing in my eyes. There's nothing more dangerous than a free game, because they're loaded. They're loaded with ads, absolutely loaded with them, and just a single click on an ad can download all sorts of malware and crap onto your device that you just are unaware of. And I have I've taken a lot of steps with my home network to detect and block this kind of stuff. But there's a balance you have to strike, because you can block a bunch of stuff, but at some point your internet becomes unusable because these these threat actors are using the same type of platforms and channels that legitimate things are using. So there's no way to 100% shield yourself or shield your kids from this stuff. So so speaking of terrifying security threats, and this is a bit more advanced, but if you're even somewhat security aware, you may have heard that Apple or iDevices or iPhones are exceedingly secure, right? There's a pretty wild vetting process that any app has to go through to get in the Apple Store. So not just anybody can put stuff in there. But anyone who's been watching the news lately has heard that the Kremlin has told their advisors or any state members to get rid of their Apple iDevices in favor of Android devices of all things, because they're unsecure. And whether or not you believe that or whatever, that's a totally different topic that we're not going to get into because we don't deal with politics here. But it piqued somebody's interest at Kaspersky. And for those who don't know, Kaspersky is one of the big players in antivirus and anti-malware and cybersecurity. These guys know what they're doing. So they released this statement because they got thinking about this. Well, what's the issue with the iPhones? So they start looking into it. So they So they started monitoring some of the Apple iPhones that they had on their own internal network that some of their employees were using, and it was quite shocking what they found. I'm just going to go ahead and read this. So Kaspersky found this back in 2019. So this has been going on to 2019. It looks like. So this is what Kaspersky had to say. And they write, while monitoring the network traffic of our own corporate Wi-Fi network dedicated for mobile devices using the Kaspersky Unified Monitoring and Analysis Platform, or KUMA, we noticed suspicious activity that originated from several iOS-based phones. Since it is impossible to inspect modern iOS devices from the inside, we created an offline backup of the devices in question, inspected them using the Mobile Verification Toolkit, MVT iOS, and discovered traces of compromise. We are calling this campaign Operation Triangulation. Kudos for a cool operation name. I'm a sucker for a cool operation name. And all the related information we have on it will be collected on the Operation Triangulation page. And it's a fascinating read if you ever want to go check that out.
Do you want to drop that link in the chat?
Sure can. Let's see here. Let me finish reading this first. If you have any additional information to share, please contact us at triangulation@kaspersky.com. I'll put that in there too. But mobile device backups contain a partial copy of the file system, including some of the user data and service databases. The timestamps of the files, folders, and the databases records allow the rough reconstruction of the events happening to the device. The MVT iOS utility, this is Kaspersky's investigation tool, produces a shortened timeline of events into the file called timeline.scv, similar to a super timeline used by conventional digital forensics tools. Basically, they reconstructed the timeline of what happened to this device over a couple days or something like that. Using this timeline, we were able to identify specific artifacts that indicate the compromise. This allowed us to move the research forward and to reconstruct the general infection sequence. And the sequence is as follows. 1. The targeted iOS device receives a message via the iMessage service with an attachment containing an exploit. Without any user interaction, the message triggers a vulnerability that leads to code execution locally. 3. The code within the exploit downloads several subsequent stages from the CNC server, command and control server, that include additional exploits for privilege escalation. 4. After successful exploitation, a final payload, a fully featured APT platform, is downloaded from the CNC server. 5. Both the initial message and the exploit in the attachment is then deleted. The malicious toolset does not support persistence, most likely due to the limitations of the OS. That means that when you reboot your device, it's gone. So it makes it exceedingly difficult to track. The timeline of multiple devices indicate that they may have been reinfected after rebooting. The oldest trace of infection that we discovered happened in 2019. As of the time of writing in June 2023, the attack is ongoing. And the most recent version of the device's successfully targeted is iOS 15.7. The analysis of the final payload is not finished yet. The code is run with root privileges, implements a set of commands for collecting system and user information, and can run arbitrary code downloaded as plugin modules from the CNC server. That is absolutely terrifying.
That is wild, man.
That's the scary part is the owner of the device has no clue this is going on.
Right.
No clue. Admittedly, this is a targeted attack. You would have to be pretty high up on someone's want list for them to go through the effort to target your specific device. But this technology now exists. It's out there in the wild.
Yep.
So it won't take long for this stuff to go. And the other scary part is Kaspersky can't track it. The threat is still ongoing. There's nothing you can do about it. There's no way to fight this yet.
Right.
So
yeah, and the fact of the matter that Kaspersky, one of the biggest antivirus malware companies in the world, can't track this down.
Yeah.
They got stupid smart people, super smart people there that's their whole life is to track this type of stuff down, to find these hackers. These guys are hackers.
Yeah.
The people working at Kaspersky are hackers looking for the hackers.
Right.
They're what do you call it? White hat
Hat.
hackers.
Yep.
Basically, they're getting paid to hack stuff, to find out the vulnerabilities or track stuff down. And these guys get paid to do it for a living, and they still can't figure it out.
Right.
That just blows my mind.
And the iOS 15.7, I guess I don't have any iDevices. I don't know how recent that OS is, but it sounded like it was pretty recent.
The newest version is 16.
Okay. So I'm gonna.
If you have an older iPhone that you can't update, I know my father-in-law literally just upgraded from the iPhone 4. So I don't think he was able to update iOS past like iOS 13 or something.
Okay.
So something like that in a situation like that. That's I hate saying keep up with the newest technology because,
I mean,
I'm not all about buying new tech if you don't have to. But when your phone isn't supported anymore from the manufacturer for their monthly or annual security updates,
that's just it. Everyone, it's like, I don't see what the big deal is that Windows XP isn't supported anymore. It still works. Like, yeah, it still works, but it's not getting security patches anymore.
Yeah.
So.
Unless you have that computer completely offline.
Yeah.
And never plan on plugging a USB into it.
No.
Because even if you have a USB stick that you want to move files from one computer to the other, say if you have pictures on your Windows 10 computer and you want to put it on this Windows XP computer, right?
Yep.
You could have malware on that USB stick. Sorry, my camera's wobbling. And just the fact of plugging that USB stick into a Windows XP machine could open up that malware without you even knowing that it's there.
Yep.
And now you infected the computer that you don't even have hooked up to the network.
Right. Yep.
And, it might pull data and put it back on that USB. Well, now when you plug that back into a networked computer, that could, it's possible that the malware could send that data back out to whoever.
Yep. That's one of the older tricks in the book is leaving a thumb drive somewhere, leaving it in a cafe or a restaurant or something like that, and someone oh cool, a flash drive, I'll take that.
Yeah, I'll plug this in.
Yeah, not knowing that it's loaded with something that I mean, you could plug a thumb drive in and it shows up empty, but something's running in the background that you're completely unaware of. That's what.
Well, let me find an article here.
I put that link to the PDF in the chat. I don't know if that link will work. I see it says Chrome extension on it. So if it doesn't work, let me know. I'll fix it.
Yeah,
but
so there's this article here that was released on CNBC back in April. The FBI warns against using public phone charging stations.
Yes. Oh man, that was a big one.
Why do you ask? Because they're everywhere. You go to an airport, there's a charging station. You just plug your phone in.
Yep.
Someone who is wanting to steal data or get data or anything like that, it doesn't take much. No one is really watching these things. You can sit right up next to it, pop off the back cover on that and, put in a Raspberry Pi running on a battery pack, right? For collecting all the data. It'll still charge your phone, but on that Raspberry Pi, they could have software ripping the data off of your phone, all of it. Your personal information, text messages, photos. If you have photos that you don't want seen.
And this happens way more than people like to think.
Yes.
It is a huge deal. I will never plug my phone into a public charger. I always take in my bag that I carry every day, I have the wall charger and a cord if I need to charge it somewhere. And I got a little battery bank if I need it. But the frustrating part is a lot of new phones give you the feature like to automatically connect to an open Wi-Fi. You need to turn that off immediately.
Yes.
Do not
100%.
let your device connect to an free Wi-Fi. I mean, that's just like unlocking your front door and opening it up and telling everyone to come on in.
Yep.
So
say, hey, put a sign in your front door that says, "I got $1 million in my bedroom."
Exactly.
And then go to bed with your door wide open.
Yep. Exactly.
So you're just asking for getting attacked.
Yeah, and then it's like some of the little things you can do, right? Using a password manager like Bitwarden. I don't know any of my passwords. Bitwarden does. I don't know any of them. So.
Well, I know one of them.
Well, I know my master password.
I know my master pass, and and I know my work password for my login at work because I can't use Bitwarden at work, but that's a whole different story. So, I know 2 passwords.
Right. But yeah, I used to use LastPass, and we all know how that went down.
Yes.
So even
unfortunately, I still have a LastPass subscription because I forgot to pull my credit card data off of there.
Yeah. Oh no.
And about 2 months ago, I saw on my bank statement that I had a, whatever $20 charge or whatever it was for the year.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, son of a gun.
Yeah. Well, I know when that,
but
because I watch the Security Now podcast all the time, and with Steve Gibson. I don't know if you've seen it or not, but it's absolutely fantastic. But I remember when the news first dropped that LastPass had a huge security breach, and it's like Steve Gibson was one of the only ones that's like, no, this is a big deal, everybody. Like, this is a huge deal.
Right. Yeah.
And I was like,
because LastPass was claiming that it's not possible to get in anything, and
right.
I think what had come out of it is that it was proven that stuff, that the threat actor was able to gain access to vaults.
Yeah. So the frustrating part is this was a series of unfortunate and I'm going to say negligent events on the part of LastPass, not having a secure developer environment. He left his computer unlocked when he left work. It's just, like I said, it's a whole list of things that were done wrong, allowing these threat actors to get in and download the entire backup vault from LastPass. So that was like, once I realized that they had the vault, it's like, well, that's it. It's time to move to somewhere else because it's only a matter of time before they crack it. So,
right.
And then when you find out that they find out that their default hash iteration was 1 at one point, and it eventually got bumped up to 100, and then it was bumped up to 1,000, but it stayed at 1,000, I think. I have the default hash iteration set at 700,000 for Bitwarden, and then I have my two-factor. And when you set two-factor, and when you set your iteration count that high, Bitwarden tells you, like, listen, if you forget your master password, you're hosed, because you're not getting into your account ever. So, because they don't have your master password, they don't know what it is, they can't unlock it. So, there is no recovery if you lose your master password. Yeah. So,
I just saw Tamara's comment in the YouTube chat there, including plugging your phone into rental company cars for GPS.
Yeah, never do it.
She said it happened to her sister in Florida, and she started getting text messages from a random number saying that they could see her inside of the blue car. Like, how creepy is that?
Yes.
You know?
So
I've learned to not trust anything unless I personally own it or have installed it.
So being in the automotive field that I was in for quite a while and still am in, it is shocking how poor the security is on modern vehicles. Chrysler, in their Uconnect system, still uses a block of AT&T cell phone numbers for their cellular connectivity. And it's not that hard to figure out the cell phone number range for these things. And there was a, I forget the name of the group. There was a pen testing group that exploited this, where they could take full control of a Jeep Cherokee. I think it was a 2014 Grand Cherokee, through the system's Uconnect, because the Uconnect is the gateway module in the vehicle. They effectively war dialed, and for the older, more senior members of the group, they'll know what war dialing is. But for the younger people, war dialing is you're just pounding away on phone numbers until you get a response that you're looking for. Yeah. So they effectively war dialed this group of AT&T phone numbers until they got a response from the vehicle that they had. Fortunately, Chrysler was thoughtful enough to append the ID, the VIN number of the vehicle, to the phone number with its response. So they ping that phone number, they get a response of the VIN number of the vehicle that responded. So once they had that, they're into the system, and once you have access to the CAN bus network in the vehicle, you're God. You can do whatever you want to that vehicle.
That is wicked.
And so it had electronically controlled transmission, electric power steering. The engine's obviously fully electronically controlled. So they were able to not only start the engine, they could steer it, and they could put the transmission into drive, all without even being in the vehicle.
Wow.
So, and that's through the Uconnect. And Uconnect in a Chrysler is part of the navigation. It's part of the stereo, the infotainment system. But yeah, when you connect your phone to your vehicle system, if you have a cellular connectivity on it, it's ridiculously easy for a threat actor to gain access to your personal device through that connection.
Yeah.
So, I'm getting caught up on the comments. Is this now? Is what now? I don't know what's now.
I don't know what that is. Is this real life?
Well, Elon Musk says we're living in a simulation, which I guess you can't rule out.
Right.
I've seen some weird things. But that's enough doom and gloom for a while. We've chewed up. We got like 15 minutes left. So, So in summation, online security, don't take it lightly, especially these days. You cannot trust anybody or anything. You can't take anything at face value these days. So the next thing that I wanted to talk about was this anti-DIY attitude that has really exploded. When I was first getting into radio, especially commercial radio, I didn't know anything about commercial radio. So where do you go to find out? Well, the first thing you do is, for me, I started playing with it, just seeing what I could do with it. Well, you run in some pretty sizable brick walls and hurdles pretty fast, with especially Motorola equipment. So your next step is like, well, it's time to start Googling stuff. So you end up on the forums. like Bat Labs and Radio Reference and stuff like that. And nothing against the forum, the sites themselves. They're fantastic wealth of information. If all you do is search, all right, and there's the key: only search.
Yes. Yep.
Because if you're a new person, or noob, I guess, as the kids say, and you post a question in there, you're likely to be berated for not knowing, and quite viciously too.
Yeah.
Some of the responses, the majority of responses that I take issue with are you need to leave this to a professional. You know, you don't need to be messing with board level repair on your XTL series radios. You take it back to Motorola, they'll send it to Depot and fix it. You don't need to worry about it. It's like, Motorola doesn't support this anymore. If I took an XTL series or an XTS to the dealership, they're gonna be like, "Oh, that's cute. Here's an APX we'll sell you. You know,
right.
That'll be
we'll sell you an APX 4000. Here you go.
Yeah.
How much is that going to cost? $2,700. Ooh.
Yeah. It's like, In a perfect world, I would love to have an APX 9000. You know.
Oh yeah, 100%.
But I don't have 20 grand to drop for a portable radio. So,
yeah,
and that's just the radio. It doesn't come with a speaker mic or a case or a charger or nothing. That's just the radio. Yeah. And if you want it in the high temp yellow, which obviously you do,
of course,
that's an extra $1,000.
Well, you're already spending 20 grand. What's
it?
$1,000?
Yeah, I know it's an extra $1,000.
Yeah.
But anyway, so you run into some pretty decent hurdles. So you go to these forums and they treat you like, well, you just need to be, you got to leave it to the pros. You know, the DIYer has no business doing any of this. And that's a major hot button with me. It's like, if everyone adopted that attitude of just leave it to the pros, eventually there are going to be no pros because no one's going to start learning things.
Right. No one's going to know how to do it anymore.
No. So it's like,
that kind of reminds me of Mike Rowe.
Yes.
His whole thing of apprenticeships and working the trades and skilled labor and stuff like that is, if we don't do it at a younger age, kids coming out of high school, college, tech schools, and get into the trades and do it, it's going to be long gone.
Yep.
So
there's oh man, and it's gone. I'm getting old. I had a thought and it just disappeared. Oh man. Man, I don't know what I was going to say at all.
I don't know. I can't help you out.
But I know if I had adopted that, well, I'll just leave it to the pros. I'd be broke because going to the pros is expensive.
Yes.
Yep. I have to constantly be learning things. I don't like just coasting through life. I'm sure Tamara will attest to, I'm always watching, like, I call them educational videos, but it's like auto repair videos, electronics repair videos, stuff that's like exceedingly boring to, I'm going to use my air quotes, a normal person. So
Yes.
it's like only I could sit and watch this 4-hour long video of someone doing board level repair to a MacBook, you know?
Right.
But I love that stuff. So
No, I'm right along there with you. I'll sit there and I'll watch stuff, and my wife will just be like, "What are you watching?"
Right.
And I'll just tell her straight up, "You don't know, and you don't care."
But it's things like learning HVAC, for instance. I put in our air conditioning system in our house. I had a very cursory knowledge of HVAC, mobile HVAC. I had my mobile HVAC certification. But mobile HVAC and residential/commercial HVAC are like Scotty Kilmer. Oh my God. Scotty Kilmer. Oh boy. I gotta calm down. But yeah, it wasn't so much that I wanted to save a bunch of money installing my HVAC system. I mean, that obviously was a part of it. But I wanted to learn something new. And what better way to learn something new is to do it yourself, you know? And I ran into a lot of that attitude of the DIYer has no business doing this. Leave it to the pros.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I found a carrier dealer in town that was all on board with that. And he's like, yeah, knock yourself out, man. Have at it. You know, so
if you want to do it, figure it out. All right.
Yeah. And it's like,
yeah, we'll sell you the equipment.
So along with that, though, I am very pro DIY. I encourage absolutely everybody to take things on yourself. But given today's environment, you need to go into it knowing you're probably going to be on your own. You know, manufacturers aren't going to warranty things when they break if you mess something up. And from my point of view, that's totally understandable, you know.
Oh, yeah, I totally get that, too. You know, hey, we certify people to install this for a living. So we will warranty it as long as it's installed by them.
Right. Yeah. And
but as soon as you touch it, then the warranty's gone. All right, well, I'm going to dig into it anyway. So.
Right. You know, and it's like along those lines, it's like if you work in your own vehicle, you know, and then you screw something up and then you make a big mess of it and then you take it to a repair shop. Expect to pay quite a bit more to get your car fixed than had you just originally brought them in the first place. Because now the mechanic who's working on it or the technician has to figure out what you messed up and how you messed it up and work backwards from there.
Right.
So you have to go into that knowing there's a bit more risk going into it if you don't know what you're doing. But you're not going to know how to do it unless you dive in and do it. So there's just, what I'm saying is there's some personal accountability, some personal responsibility that you have to take upon yourself and realize these things before you rip the car apart. So, because there's a point of no return on some of this stuff.
I will say, do not go pull the engine out of your 2019 Honda and try tearing it apart.
there's a lot of things, like I had my own like personal procedure when I want to do something, like for instance, the HVAC stuff. I had a little bit of, I had the understanding of the refrigeration cycle and stuff like that. And I knew about superheat and subcooling and stuff. But there's a lot of the nuanced stuff, what different refrigerants are for, different types of compressors and, control systems and stuff like that. Fortunately, YouTube is a thing,
Obviously.
Yeah. And you'll be shamed for this in a forum. Like if you tell someone that, I see this on Facebook all the time, like homeowner watched the YouTube video and thinks they can do it themselves. Yeah, that's how that happens. Yep. The difference is like I watched several hundred videos and I took notes and I learned before I attempted. So, you're following the logical steps. You're taking acceptable risks. You're taking a bit of a risk when you do it yourself. But it's a calculated risk. So you can't watch a 5-minute video on an engine overhaul and then take your 2023 BMW M5 and overhaul the engine on it. Things aren't going to go well for you. Right. So you can't impart that amount of knowledge in that short amount of time. So you do have to really get over that instant gratification thing and know that you're going to have to put in a lot of effort if you want to do it yourself, especially with a lot of the stuff like Motorola that was not designed for the DIYer. Apple and John Deere. I mean, those are two companies right there that really get my blood pressure up because they are so anti-DIY. It's unbelievable. The shady and underhanded things that they do to keep people from working on their own equipment. I mean, when a farmer pays $1.5 million for a combine and the HVAC control module goes bad in it, he can go to the dealership and buy a new HVAC control module, but if he plugs that into his machine, his whole machine goes unresponsive because it's unprogrammed. He can't use his combine.
Yeah, and that's unreal because it has nothing to do with the operation of the combine.
Exactly. He can't use his combine until he has the dealership. Either he's got to haul his combine to the dealer or they've got to come out to his shop and program it. So he's at the mercy of whenever the service tech can get around to him.
Yep.
And especially up here, the growing season is so short. Planting and harvest season is like a week, week and a half. You can't afford downtime like that.
Yep.
That can ruin a farmer up here, especially with the massive amount of debt that they have to carry to run this kind of equipment, because it's not cheap. And I totally understand a manufacturer not wanting to have the end user work on their own stuff if it's under warranty. All right. Yeah, if it's under warranty, I get it. It's got to go back to the dealership. But if I decide that I want to work on it myself, then I get to sign something that says, hey, the warranty is now void. You're on your own.
Yep.
That's fine. That's that calculated risk I was talking about. You have to make your own decision whether or not you want to take on that risk. But once that warranty period is over and I own that machine, I don't owe any money on it. That machine's mine. If I want to take the modules out, if I want to take the diesel particulate filter and the emissions control systems off it, it's mine. I can do that. John Deere should have no say over that.
Right, because now it's between you
and the EPA,
government to deal with the repercussions of, hey, you're now no longer meeting EPA emissions protocol or whatever.
Right.
That has nothing to do with the manufacturer. But the sad thing is as soon as somebody gets a fine from the EPA, guess what they're going to do? They're going to sue the manufacturer for letting them make this modification. And that's the sad world we're in right now, is everyone is so sue happy that
in 2000, so I had a Triumph Thruxton 900. It was a 2012. It was the last of what the service tech at the Triumph dealer said was the unlocked ECMs. You could get for free from Triumph their engine tuning software, and you could remap your engine computer on your Triumph motorcycle for free.
Okay.
This is just a thing you could do. And which I did a lot. But a motorcyclist in California had remapped his engine computer, and it was running so lean that he had pulled out in a big four-way intersection in California, and his bike stalled, and he got hit. So what's he do? He sues Triumph. So Triumph is like, well, fine, screw it. Nobody can tweak their computers anymore. So the 2013 models and then on were locked engine computers. You couldn't do anything with them.
Man, that's crazy.
So then you have to resort to aftermarket, like the power commanders and stuff like that, to do any tweaking on it. And I hate aftermarket stuff. I just hate it.
Yep.
Coming from the automotive repair world, I mean, aftermarket parts and aftermarket accessories just, oh man, it gives me nightmares.
Well, and especially when the technology is there to do it OEM.
Yeah. Because
when the technology is there, it's just locked out by the manufacturer.
Well,
just because.
It's so frustrating and disheartening when the manufacturer was in the spirit of motorcyclists, Yeah, have fun, tweak your machine, it's yours. Yep. And then someone's got to go and ruin it for everybody else. And then this is the situation we're in. Yep. But like for Apple and John Deere, they're in it for the money, Yeah. John Deere is the Apple of the agricultural world. Yeah,
I know quite a few farmer friends that have gone away from green.
Yeah, it's
back
unfortunate.
When we were growing up, they bled green. That's all they ever ran. If you would never see a red tractor on their farm ever.
It's really depressing to think that in 80 years, the 1965 or the 1970 John Deere 4440 or 4450 is still going to be around. Well, all this 2023 stuff is going to be it's going to be in the junkyard because John Deere's going to stop supporting it. They're going to stop making control modules for it. The electronics will eventually fail on it, and then they're useless.
Yeah. So when I was up visiting last weekend, I stopped by my grandfather's house. He's a retired farmer. He's 83 years old. So he had RFD TV on. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, Alan.
Yeah.
Basically a farm channel.
Yep.
And they had a Mecum auction. Is it Mecum?
Yep.
I think. Where it was just farm equipment, right?
Yep.
And like a 4440, John Deere 4440 from the 60s and 70s was going for like $90,000.
Yeah. Yep.
Because everybody wants the equipment they can work on.
Yep.
I asked my grandpa about his 4020 that he had when we were young and growing up, and he said he bought that with a plow for, what did he say? $1,800? No. either 1,800 or 8,000, one of the two. I don't remember which way it was. But, a couple hundred hours later, many, many years of farm use, he sold it for more when he retired
Yeah.
than he bought it for.
Oh, man.
That's just unreal.
Yeah. I know. It's like that. I don't know.
And it goes back to the DIY because everyone wants the equipment they can work on without having to get a tech out. They don't want to pay the manufacturer to come work on equipment that they own.
Right.
So,
and the frustrating part is, one of the frustrating things among many is that you also run into a lot of the users, and I'm going to crap on Apple here again, but a lot of Apple users like the fact, they've bought into the fact that, well, Apple does this for our own safety, our own security. We don't want third-party repair centers working on our stuff because they're going to steal our data. So, I mean, I keep the kids safe,
Right. Yep.
Sure, there's probably going to be one, there's bad apples everywhere. Someone's probably done it. But, I don't know. It's frustrating. I don't know if I showed it. I think you've seen it before. My little tractor. My little Economy Power King from 1956. 100 years from now, that thing's still going to be going.
Yep.
So, like, I mowed the grass with it today, and it's like, yeah, he's slow, it's loud. It was definitely built during a time when personal responsibility and common sense prevailed. Because
yes, do not put your feet down.
Yeah, you have to know where not to put your appendages.
Yes.
Don't stick your fingers in the rotating bits. Don't touch the things that are hot.
Where they belong.
Yeah. So, but it just works no matter what. That machine has never let me down. And it's one of those so you get to enjoy mowing your lawn for an extra 20 minutes because it's a bit slower than the modern machines. It's a bit slower than the guys on the $20,000, 500,000 horsepower zero turn John Deere's zero turns that have to mow at 60 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Yeah, Otis.
Otis. That's awesome.
Yeah. But I know the I've showed pictures of it to our safety coordinator at work, and she's just like, that's just the most unsafe thing I've ever seen. I'm like, there's nothing unsafe about it. It's like, it's not like, if you don't do anything stupid around it, it's not going to kill you. It's like, it's not Christine.
That's the biggest thing at work right now is that same mindset of, yes, we run presses, punches, shears at work in my shop. I work in a fab shop, and it actually mows better than the John Deere.
It really does.
It's awesome. And I think I've said this on this channel before. Our safety guy has told us we need to engineer this equipment that has been in our shop for 70 years, probably.
Oh,
honestly,
no.
the one press is from World War II. I know that.
Oh, man.
So, and we only run one part on it because we only have one die that fits in it. So he had basically told us, you guys need to engineer this equipment so that nobody can get hurt. It's like, okay, how about they don't put their hand in the press when it's moving?
Right.
Like, if common sense. He goes, you have to expect that no one has common sense. I go, well, I already know they don't, but
I mean, if you feel unsafe operating a piece of equipment, you shouldn't be operating it.
Exactly.
I mean, you need to know what you're doing. You need to take the personal responsibility to learn how to operate the machine safely. There's a safe way to do anything, It's like running. I mean, it's like you watch some of these documentaries and stuff of how farming was done way back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just like, even me, sometimes I'm like, man, how did people survive this? But it's like,
oh, I know.
People were smart, Don't stick your hand in the rotating flat belt assembly.
Or you're gonna go for a ride.
Well, it's like if you've ever stood up on the deck next to a threshing machine, And you've got all
Yeah.
the feeder knives pulling the hay into it. It's like, yeah, it doesn't take much cognitive ability to know that if I fell into that, it's all over with. Like, that only ends
Right.
one way. So, and then some poor fools who got to clean that machine out to get it started again because they've got the rest of the field to finish.
Exactly. Yep. They can't stop because
Right.
you only have 1 week of harvest.
Right. But I don't know.
So, long story short, do not fall into the thrashing
Right.
machine.
That's why I absolutely love Micro's theory on safety third. Absolutely.
Yep.
Safety is your responsibility and nobody else's.
Yep. It is not. It should. Yes, the company should care about safety, but we know it's not their priority. Their priority is always to make money.
Yes.
That's the reason they're there. They're not there to make you feel safe doing your job.
Right. And it's like,
So.
if you get into that mindset of safety first and someone else is looking out for my safety, then you start to become complacent. And you start to
Yes,
make stupid
especially when you're doing 2-man jobs, running a press or something like that.
Yeah.
When you
Yep.
expect someone else to care about your safety when you're working with someone else on a dangerous machine or whatever, like, it ain't gonna happen.
There's 2 big things with me that I will never compromise on. That's lockout, tagout, and never, ever, ever walk underneath of a suspended load or like front end loader arms or an excavator boom when it's in the air. Never do it, because that you are tempting fate, is putting it mildly.
Yes.
So.
Yep. Yeah, I used to work at the beet plant in Crookston there for a year. And
Yeah.
lockout, takeout, when you're changing the knives on the knife machine that slices the beets into basically potato chips.
Yeah.
Man, those things are cruising.
Yep.
And if you don't lock that thing out, guess what's going in there?
Right.
Your hand.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
No good. No good. This episode ended up being a bit grimmer than I anticipated.
I know.
But
Well, can we tie this back into ham radio somehow?
yeah, we really got off track on this one, didn't we?
We did.
So, we can tie it back in with the OpSec. So, like I mentioned at the beginning, a lot of our more senior members are getting into digital modes and using the internet more and more. They may not be familiar with, the proper etiquette, shall we say, on being safe online. Don't click on ads. Don't click on links in your email. Just because you've got an email from Publishers Clearinghouse saying you've won $200 million doesn't probably means you didn't win $200 million. So
Right.
if you get a text message that says, this is whatever city police department, if you don't pay us or whatever this amount of money, you're going to be arrested by the end of the day. I can't think of any police department that would legitimately send a text message like that. So it's like, sometimes you have to struggle to feel bad for these people because it was so painfully obvious what this was.
Yes. Yep. I hear you.
But, I can really tie this into ham radio. I'll see if I can find an article and link it in the show notes. But there was a ham on the air not more than a month ago that was talking about he was basically sharing this website with everyone. He's running this big pile up, getting a bunch of contacts and stuff like that. He's telling everyone to visit this website. What this website was doing, they go to this website and you have to enter your email address. And right then and there, it's like, all right, I'm out. If I go to a website and the first thing it asks me to do is enter my email address, nope, I'm out.
Right.
So, unless you've got a burner email, which isn't a bad idea. So, because then you can do some poking and prodding with it and not have to worry.
Yeah.
But-
then just forget that password. And
Right. But what this thing was doing, it was sending these people a link to get their quote QSL card, and it was just a phishing attack. People were losing a lot of money over it. So
Oh man, that's
it was
crazy.
send this guy $20 to get a QSL card, from him, posing as this rare DX or whatever. And yeah, a lot of people lost some money on it. So
I did not hear about that. That's a new one.
yeah, it's unfortunate that that stuff has made it into on the over the air stuff. So
Right.
also things in ham radio news, that Californian ham that was interfering. I think I sent you the video about that. That was interfering with a warp net or something like that.
Yeah, it was a daily net, I think. I can't remember what net for sure, but
the FCC, I wish I could have been a fly on the wall when the FCC showed up. It's like, listen, we're watching you. We know what you're doing. You know, here's a $25,000 fine, by the way.
Right. Right. And the only way you don't pay it is if you explain to us how.
Right. How what you were doing wasn't interference.
We're not interfering.
Yeah. It is frustrating that it didn't specifically say if he had to pay it or not. It sounded like he had to, you know, unless he had to explain why it wasn't interfering. But it takes a lot of provoking to get the FCC involved. But once they're involved, man, they're like the NTSB. They're relentless.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Oh, yeah. I mean, there's still a lot of interference, you know, bad actors out there.
Yeah.
Just.
I mean, you always run into it. Like,
bad.
Yeah. I run into all the time on here. People are playing music. Or I feel bad for, like, the guys who are doing the parks on the air. Because, there's so many people that try to interfere with them. And it's like, just leave them alone.
All they're doing is trying to get out portable and have fun. You know, enjoy the national parks and whatnot.
It's ham radio. Why are you interfering with, like, what was it like at the top of Mount Everest? Because clearly you've done everything else. So
exactly,
to get down to this on your list of things to do, interfere with somebody on ham radio, clearly you've done everything else.
Yep. You have nothing else to do.
Nothing else to do. So, but it's like, well, we had that. Well, you still lived up here at the time. We had that the whole Kerchunking thing going on Grand Forks, and everybody except Scott wanted to just bury their heads in the sand and not worry about it.
Yeah.
And Scott was like, "No, screw this guy."
No, let's go find this guy. Come on.
To be fair,
I was all about it because I loved doing that type of stuff.
That was
fun.
It was fun. I mean, to be fair, I think Jonathan got out there, did some direction finding and stuff like that. As I recall, I think he pissed Matt off pretty good. I don't remember what it was about. I think it was something about Matt had asked what was going on, and Jonathan gave him the quick, typical Jonathan response of "Nunya" or something like that. But you know, it was poor timing, is what it was, and it was just like, oh man, poor Matt. He was angry.
He picked the short stick. Sorry, Matt.
Yeah. Oh man.
I think that's just Matt's life, though.
Yeah.
That's just everything with Matt's life. Everything he does.
The poor guy's a malfunction magnet. Everything goes wrong around that guy.
Matt, are you watching? If you're watching, give us a thumbs up.
Yeah. Well, his computer probably crashed by now. He's an IT guy, so he knows how to unplug it and plug it back in, so he'll be okay.
Yes. Did you shut it off?
That's what, like, one of the main IT guys where I work, like, I was just telling him, it's like, you know, you're getting good at your job when it's like reflex. Like, you walk up to his office and say, you know, "Hey Joel, how's it going? Did you turn it off and turn it back on yet?"
Yes, that's awesome.
Oh man. But yeah, there's I don't know. It's disheartening how some of these forums and even Reddit is like this now. Some of the ham radio groups in Reddit, you really get accosted if you don't already know everything. So that's kind of why. I mean, that's really the main reason why I started this channel. I'm probably going to branch into other things other than just ham radio, because I am really passionate about the DIY aspect of things, taking things on yourself, keeping stuff out of the landfill. Not just throwing things away when you can easily fix it with just a little bit of know-how, you know, a little bit of effort. So, yeah, that was the driving factor behind this channel, is to get that kind of stuff going. So,
yeah, I'm excited to see some more of your content that you're going to be putting out here in the next
couple
months, and
it's going to be, I think I need to do some kind of change it up a little bit, I think, because before the show I was telling you about the next few planned series are just more programming, radio programming. It's like the XTL and the XTS series and XPR and the Motorola Harris and stuff like that. And but that can be pretty dry, But it's stuff that needs to be out there because it's stuff that's not out there.
All it's stuff that we couldn't find.
No.
We had to do the DIY to figure it out.
There is so much trial and error in this, and just trying this setting and trying that setting, and what does this do and what does that do, and the little locking tabs on my programming cable from my XTL are completely worn out that I don't have to turn the lock anymore. I can just plug it in and pull it back out.
Right.
So because it's been in and out so many times. But yeah, I would like to do some more like board level repair videos and stuff like that, especially for automotive controllers. Man, there needs to be more of that content out there. Yeah,
that'd be really cool. I'd like to see some of your board level repair stuff.
Yeah. You get an engine computer that goes bad in your F-150. Well, Ford wants, $1,500 to replace it, and they got to program it when all it was a diode that shorted in it. You replace the diode, the thing comes back. Or cracked solder joint. Man, cracked solder joints. You run into that crap all the time with automotive controllers.
Yeah.
So the hard part is, and the reason why a lot of people shy away from that kind of stuff is there are no schematics for these controllers. You can't ring up Ford and be like, hey, what's your board level schematic for your PCMs? They're gonna be like, okay, no.
Right.
So, and then they'll probably hang up on you. So you're definitely
add you to the do not, the block list, and don't ever listen to this guy again.
Yeah, you're definitely going to be in uncharted waters for sure on that. But it's stuff that needs to get explored. Especially when modern vehicles are getting just immensely more complex. Especially now with EVs on the market, 100% electronically controlled. Like literally all of it.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, there's nothing that's not.
Yeah, and then you still run into manufacturers like Tesla who pot their battery packs. It's like, why? Don't do that. It's like you give like the diagnostic software. If you had access to buy the Tesla factory diagnostic software, and you'll see this like if you go to Weber Auto YouTube channel, he goes through this. You can see individual cell level voltages, and you can tell which cell in that pack has gone bad.
Yeah.
So you have all the information you need to take your pack apart and replace an individual cell, should you so desire, assuming that you have the necessary safety equipment to do so without killing yourself, because that is an extreme likelihood with these systems. But then they started potting the battery packs, so you couldn't take them apart. Well, I mean, if there's a will, there's a way. You can depot it, but you're going to be there for a long time.
Right. At that point, you might as well just send it in.
Yeah. It's just, that's kind of stuff is frustrating. It's just e-waste as far as I'm concerned. It's just designed to be thrown away.
Yeah.
Which is depressing, but anyway, we're over an hour.
Oh, yeah.
So,
it's already 20 after.
Yeah.
So.
This was, I think, some grim stuff with some ham radio sprinkled in lightly. So,
here and there.
Yeah, here and there were some ham radio things.
Some ham radio references.
Yeah,
We gave our call sign.
Right. Oh yeah, there's a good security aspect of it, giving your call sign in public, because you can just Google someone's call sign and figure out where they live. Now that I've said that, I mean, sometimes I feel weird saying that publicly, but it's not like it's not common knowledge.
Yeah.
You go to the FCC website and put in someone's call sign and tell you right where they live, or at least where the call sign's registered. So it's not hard. That's public knowledge, which is unfortunate, but what do you do?
Yeah. The cost of being a ham.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is,
back when sorry, my camera. Back when ham radio became a thing and licensing became a thing, they didn't have to worry about OpSec.
Nope.
By looking up in the FCC database, that's how you found their address to send the QSL card.
Yep.
They didn't have to worry about someone being a bad actor trying to do bad things.
It was just like the internet. The internet was never built with security in mind. It's like the whole.
No, it was about sharing everything,
Yeah.
giving it all. If I have something, I want to connect to you so that we can share this knowledge back and forth.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it was realized pretty early on, the pretty early days of the internet. It's like, holy crap, people are dumb.
We opened up Pandora's box.
Yeah. So then HTTPS became a thing, and it's like, well, let's just add this Band-Aid on here, and then the internet is just one never-ending stack of Band-Aids. But Steve Gibson, his Squirrel project, I don't know if you've checked that out at all. That guy, speaking of HTTPS, he's the guy for HTTPS. He's one of the originators of that.
Okay.
But yeah, man, Project Squirrel. It's a whole new way to browse the internet. So it's going to be awesome. His SpinRite software, hard drive recovery software, is absolute witchcraft.
What is that called? SpinRite?
SpinRite. It can take a totally dead and unresponsive hard drive and bring it back to where it's at least usable, so you can do a mirror on it and replace the drive.
No way.
Because it doesn't rely on actually interacting with the file structure on the drive. It does it bit level, like it just copies it bit by bit and does forward error correcting and a bunch of other crap to it. That is,
no way.
Like, I'll be honest, it's way above my head how he pulls this stuff off. But
interesting.
Yeah, it's super cool. He's a thoroughly interesting dude, Steve Gibson.
It was first released in 1987.
Yeah, still running on mostly DOS too. So
okay.
He's definitely one of the guys where it's like, if it's not broke, don't fix it.
SpinRite is run from a bootable medium on a PC-compatible computer, allowing it to scan the computer's storage medium. It does not depend on the operating system installed on the computer.
He also has a couple other products one's called Shields Up, which you can run right from his website, and it points out all of your security flaws in your network, like what ports you have, like what ports are exposed on your router. Yeah, it's pretty sweet. He takes security very seriously, which is why they have his whole podcast, Security Now.
Yeah,
so
that's cool.
They're coming up
to dig into this guy some more.
They're coming up on, what are they, 600 or 960 episodes or something like that. I think he's pulling the pin at 1,000 episodes, he said. So
really,
it drives Chandler nuts because, I lay in bed, like when I go to bed, it's like I have a hard time falling asleep to begin with. So I'll turn on an older episode of Security Now. Like, I'm working my way backwards through all his archive stuff, and I'll listen to that until I fall asleep. So I'm sure that's just got to drive her nuts. So, but I don't know. My brain never shuts off. That's why I have such a hard time sleeping.
Yeah.
So, oh man.
All right. I suppose we can wrap it up here.
Yeah, I think so. Coming up on a 1.5 hours.
Yes.
The problem is, if we officially make the podcast 1.5 hours, we're just going to go to 2 hours.
Oh, I know that. Yeah,
so
that's a given.
So
yeah, for all of you viewing, thanks for watching our hour and a half long podcast.
Yes, we thank each and every one of you. We definitely realize that it's rough around our edges, although we didn't. You got your money's worth. So
yes.
You got what you paid for. So
that's great.
We keep your expectations low with this channel. I'll say that much. But
that's
all right. With that, my name is Alan, N0ZFG. I'm assuming you're Chris. Yeah. One day we'll
Well,
get
I
that
didn't-
worked out.
I didn't know if you were just gonna say
well, last-
I'm Alan then 0ZFG and then just end
And then-
like you did last time.
Yeah. Yeah. I did something like, this is Alan and 0ZFG. Out.
Clear.
And with that, out.
We now return the frequency back to normal amateur operations. We thank you for your patience and your understanding. 73.